G'day, welcome back, punters. John Walter is here and fresh off the canvas, off a big win Saturday in the stream.
Not fresh, I tell you. I was cooked on the night, and then yesterday I was driving home. Like, I don't drink much, and I didn't drink yesterday. I was driving home like 5 o'clock with Beck, and I nearly had to pull over. I was that tired. Sucks it out of you mentally, all these bloody things. But it was something different. But we're packing up again.
When's that? 2 weeks, is it?
Yeah, 2 weeks. But I mean, like, we're straight back into it today. Public holiday Monday, 2 meetings, reviewing. It just never ends, does it? Like, it's you never have time for downtime in this game.
No rest. Well, you did a good job Saturday. I didn't. I paraded poorly, and that was the order of the day for me. A few close finishes, but
the reviewing's a bit weird. Like, it's actually like it didn't. Normally things stick out a little bit on race day that races were run a certain way, fast, slow, whatever. A couple did, and they sort of line up. But the staying races, like extreme tempos and a few funny things that kind of, it's actually not a bad meeting to review. So
it is. And so, of course, we're talking about Randwick Saturday. Shoot races being races, 1, 2, and 7. I suppose the early races always race a little bit better on these affected tracks, as was the case. The track speeds come out at about 7.2 on those races and 7.9, so virtually bang on the official heavy 8. Look, it might have seemed worse, but I suppose they were getting out to the better section, and of course the inside lanes were cast. In terms of any pattern on the day, the shoot races, there was some handy advantage, and on the course proper races, best position was 1 to 2 lengths from the leader on the day, but don't have the lanes data as yet, so we can't really, I suppose, add too much more. But what did you think, John?
Yeah, it was weird. I'm with you. It looked probably heavier, and it looked like sticky, and it looked like quite a few horses were sort of getting bogged down a touch. But I'm surprised the times have come out as close to the rating. I thought they might have been a bit worse. So, but it kind, as I said, it kind of all makes sense once you've got a little bit more information now than then. Yeah, and I think it'll be okay moving forward. I don't think it was like a horrible track, that's for sure. Like something we can't work with, that's for sure.
So the first 2 races, of course, the 2-year-olds are Group 3 set weight races. Now, they used to be listed, the Jimcrack and the breeders. I'm not sure why they were ever elevated. Look, traditionally, these races often provide a good indication of the better 2-year-olds early. The breeders play race 1, of course, first use of the track, ran a little bit better time, about 0.7 of a length better. Pace-wise, they were both solidly run, and they went out pretty much identical. But there is a difference in race quality from mine, and we'll get to talk about that. So race 1, solid tempo, John. Have you got the race there?
Yeah, it was weird how they were both similarly run, really, on paper. But yeah, like I said, they're very different races visually, and on paper they're similar. So yeah, solidly running. We talk about Mark 10 sort of springs to the front, the eventual winners out the back. So it's interesting to see that that's kind of, they ended up not fighting it out. The winner's dominant late, but lack of speed from Empire of Japan, which is not normally a good thing for early 2-year-olds. They normally struggle to make up this sort of ground, especially on testing surface. So it adds a lot of interest, I guess, to oncoming starts from these sorts of horses. Very well ridden, the winner. He's tracking up in behind here, the white nose, getting to the outside, gets to the right part of the track. Mac 10's been up front, done all the work, kicks away, and basically knocks up, I think. I think his run was probably every bit as good as the winner. He's dead set gone out on his feet here, whereas the winner's done less work, got to the right part, and no knock on the winner. He's strong through the line, but I thought the second horse went pretty good. The 4th horse, even though pace assisted's a funny one, just very green. What's it called? Make a Call.
Yes.
Just got lost all the way down the straight here, and even though he's sort of doing all this in a section that's, below average, he's probably does enough to say that he's worth forgiving and can improve for sure. One's back on the inside. I don't think anything else did enough, really.
March 10 sort of over-raced a bit and was sort of green, wasn't it? So he could improve. And the goal was slow to recover. Tarabo, I should say, he attributed, so the jock saying, Baylor said that didn't handle a heavy track. So, I suppose you're going to get those sorts of comments all the time, aren't you? But look, the winner sort of, to me, sort of raced like it trialled. It didn't trial anywhere near as well as the second winner, but I think anyway, in terms of the times and so forth, it says the same. Look, I do have the filly superior, even though the times and sections were similar, and the race one was slightly overall better time. I do have the filly has a much better performance. So
I think this is an interesting thing. Like when you're looking at those, look at the margin here at the 400. There's like a length or two between all of them. Fillies is far more spread out, we'll see, which is usually a good thing. And this horse only had to come, but really around one or two horses and do its thing. Onto the fillies?
Yep, onto the fillies. Solid tempo again. And the winner, of course, didn't show the speed that she showed in the trial. She virtually no pace at all early, was it?
It's a weird. You had to double check as a Waterhouse horse, didn't you? Like it's you expect it like the Sicilian, which is up outside leader, and Gay's other horses at Platinum, should know the name of it. Perfect Proposal and Platinum Jubilee is the winner. Perfect Proposal and Sicilian 1-2. That's where you expect Gay's horses to race and run well, and it's the little sleeper out the back, Platinum Jubilee, that does a lot wrong, and even though it's pace assisted, sort of comes to the outside, comes back to the inside, and see it here travelling really strong. Good effort from the two up front as well. But
Sicilian stopped pretty quickly, didn't it? It was lame, 2 out of 5, and slow to recover. And Queen of the Mile was also lame and mildly lame and will be spelled.
I think
the winner was a very, very good performance.
And where you had, like, even the two up on speed were very good too. So, Platinum sort of tries to get to the outside here. I didn't mind this horse, Just Gisella. I thought it trialled really well too. So I think it's a good pointer that they're in a similar spot here. This horse is not able to finish the race off anywhere near as Platinum Jubilee does. So I would say that I agree with you that the fillies are got the wood on them, which is not unusual, is it? Definitely forgiving of Sicilian. If it's pulled up 2 out of 5 lame after sitting outside of fast speed, it basically put the favourite away. And who's to know when the issues sort of kicked in, did it? And then no knock on the leader. It's kicked back and run well. And this thing's just put up a huge performance, really. Look at it there, change leg and just let down. And like through the line, you watch it compared to the one in the first. I know the times aren't much different, but I know which one I want to follow. And the final 200, I think it was about 2.5 lengths difference.
2.6 lengths difference last 200 between the two winners. 2.7 lengths difference, I should say, between the first winner and second winner's last 200, and 1.7 the last 400 better. So, much better performance.
That same spot, right? Where we showed that other race, it's sort of 3, 4, 5 off, whereas the other horse was sort of here and just coming around one horse, tiring horses that it's had to sort of check, do a lot more work. It's hard to knock it going forward, Platinum Jubilee.
I think the fillies are better early season.
And the trials look the same way, like far better. I was actually surprised the Colts got us anywhere near to what they did in times. And like you said, first use of the track may have helped them marginally as well. Okay, we can get on to race 3, which is the, what we got there, an 88 over 1,600 metres. This was the jiggy jog for the Coffs Harbour Cup winner, Hosier. It's actually, I think it's a good race for us to talk about. It's a good race for to just to show how to watch horses, I think, in a really slowly run race, because this is just an embarrassment. Like, it's nearly a barrier trial, the tempo, and amazingly, like, they don't even pick up for between the 8 and the 6 really. And it's just handed like, look at this. This is just terrible. It's like, what are they doing? Seriously, like, these are really good jockeys. I don't know who the horse was to push the tempo on that. It kind of looked like that on paper, I guess. Like you knew that Polino never really wanted to push the speed. Tamerlane's not one to really want to do it either. So maybe this is probably an extreme version of what it looked like on paper. But I thought there was some good runs.
Just over races all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's the one. If it was me, I probably would have. It's a horse that's like totally unsuited by this. So to try and box seat that horse is a mistake for mine. But whatever. You just try and ride them pretty. I thought the horse running last here was a very good run. Wonderful Riri. I think Mahogany was a good run. I think I'll explain my thinking with this race. I think there's two horses you want to watch here and what slow tempos do to two different sorts of horses. So to me, you look at Casino Lad, hard ridden, and you look at Mahogany, which is absolutely travelling. And I think the difference between them is Mahogany's a horse that's got a short, sharp sprint, and Casino Lad's a horse that can sustain a sprint but needs the sort of tempo, and it's not as fast and sharp. And you see that Mahogany sort of puts it away and then late peaks on its run. So the pace is already, it's hurt itself by having to sort of make a longer run than it's capable of doing against a slow tempo, whereas Casino Lad's just still building and building and building, and it's actually stronger on the line. So whilst they're both hurt by the speed, it shows to me that this horse can run further, and it's a stronger horse than Mahogany ever can be. And that's what slow tempos do for me. Show me what horses are capable of. Like, this horse is far more capable of being strong at the end of a race to me than Mahogany is. So I think that's what I use these sort of races for going forward. I think this race is pretty bad to sort of talk about form, but I just think video watching wise, it's good. And you've got a horse like this wonderful Riri that's powered through the line, and even Paternal back on the inside. I think they were all really good barrier trials for races coming up.
Look, I think Casino Kids has gone as good as it can go. Wonderful Riri does have one figure there when it won at Doomben, which is much better than its form so far in 4 runs this prep. So yeah, maybe in the right conditions.
I think it's a nightmare to catch.
Maybe it needs to come back in distance.
Yeah, I've been following it all prep, and it's had no luck. It drew the wrong spot at Wyong, no luck. I can't picture what it did last start, to be honest, but it's a horse that's actually been going a lot better than it seems. I'm a bit like you. I don't know what it needs, but I do know that if it finds the right race, right run, it's absolutely flying, and it's not showing that on paper at the moment. So we'll probably get somewhat value about it if it does happen to find the right race. Just got to try and work that out.
Yeah, Winner's gone to a new peak for mine, despite the slow tempo. Well ridden, taken advantage of the situation, Dylan Gibbons, and got the job done, and still relatively lightly raced, this horse. So
yeah, anyway, it's a weird one. You would have thought, I guess the trainer thought, I was a bit surprised why it wasn't, sort of psyched myself out that a bit shorter, just because of the control it looked like getting. And I guess the angle of it's getting ready for the big dance and wouldn't be ready, but it just keeps racing well with that gap between runs at this sort of distance range. It's obviously a horse that doesn't need a lot of racing and work and can race well fresh, and it's a bloody nice horse.
Okay, the Hill Stakes, the first of the races I'd rather forget. Very fast tempo here.
It didn't look it, did it, watching it? I didn't think.
Montefiore. Well, I mean, you're talking about a 2,000 metre race, right? It's very hard to pick up from the eye. They've gone quick, and Kiss the Bride has done what I thought it might do, and go to the front and sort of run itself into the ground. Montefiore, it looked like it was travelling at one stage there, and it just gave up without a yelp and was very disappointing, and took a substantial amount of money of mine with it. Cascadian, of course, horse I can never really catch. Got the job done and was suited off that very fast pace, and I thought Numerian's job that it did there was good, considering where it was in the run relative to the pace. So
I think you've nailed it, as in the rides of Cascadian's he's ridden it perfectly. He's never breathed on any stage. Collett's done nothing wrong on Montefiore. The run of the race is probably Numerian, considering how fast they've gone, and it's quite keen even up on outside the lead, and the winner's just won by default because Montefilia just went disgracefully, and it looked like it actually. I thought it must have been fairly slowly run. They've sprinted home. They've outsprinted her, and then she's come again late. But that's just not what happened, is it? It's like she's done nothing.
Kister Bride's been beaten 28 lengths, and Yonkers has been beaten there 13 and a half lengths or so, and Numerian's been beaten 3 3/4. So it's done a good job, really. Cascadian's just got on the back of the Montefilia there, the favourite, and got back to the inside of it, and it's just all over, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it just smelled to me.
Like for one sec, she sort of loomed and then just went backwards.
And it sort of I was talking to Josh after you'll talk about the race in Melbourne, and it'll probably help you actually, or give you some information. So he said, "What do you think of Duay?" And I'm like, he said, "What did you think in the run?" I said, "Well, you had to be in the finish, and he's like, "Yeah, me too." He said, he talked to me. He's like, if I was a betting man, it was just like the race was over at the 600. And he said, when I went for her, she just feels like she wants 2 miles already. And I just wonder if these horses that are coming off slow run races and wet track races, and maybe David Payne did the same. Maybe Ed just had her a little bit too wound up and ready for too far too soon. And that's possibly what happened with this horse as well. Maybe this horse he's given her a lot of work since that first up run, and she's just hooked there.
When the mares do that, like Duay and now Montefilia, I can't forgive them. I can't get them back to that sort of Australian Cup.
Well, you want to see it, don't you?
Tancred form. I'd rather take the risk and be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You'd rather them beat you and be wrong than keep forgiving them.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree with that, and the worst part with this is that if that so Duay, I'm assuming they went pretty slow there. I haven't looked at that race, or at least even they didn't definitely go 20 above like they did here. You would think if this horse had been pounded with the work, it'd be ready for this. So anyway, it's from a Caulfield Cup, Melbourne Cup perspective, I've got absolutely no idea what you do with a horse like Montefilia or Duay going forward.
Okay, let's get into the Dole Supply over 1,600 metres. Solid tempo early, and then sort of, rated a little bit better by the time they got to the 600. It was sort of average by that stage. I was on Communist here, and once it got out to about that $5.55 mark, I thought that was a fair price, and got beaten by Williamsburg, who had all favours, right? It's had all favours, and I suppose Communist did in a sense too. But
Communist is deeper into its first prep, wasn't it? So I think it's just I think it's just had a bit of what do you want to call it? Experience on its side and a better preparation for this. Williamsburg loves the wet track, got to the right part. Communist even took it most of the way. A far less experienced horse, deeper into its prep than Communist. It kind of just had to win. The weights, everything was perfect for Williamsburg. The horses up front have overdone it. They're inexperienced as well, and they sort of, as I said, I think Mark Lambourne said at the time, it was an upside down race, so the horses up the front end, up the back, came to the front, and the pace certainly helped significantly with that. But the race overall is very scary, isn't it? Like it's
not much.
Yeah, it's unless they get similar conditions, Williamsburg, wet tracks and things, it'll be very hard to be confident with anything out of this race going forward.
What can we say? Scientist, I suppose.
Little issue or something, but it's
didn't handle the conditions.
None of the sprint champion wise, you're not jumping to your computer to snaffle a price, eh?
No, I mean, yeah, no. I don't like the race. I don't like the race.
I feel like you're not very good at being negative with horses, as in you like to be nice to them, whereas I'm like a little bit harsher in life, and I think you're trying to be nice, and I think that's nice.
I don't think the race has got much.
Next race.
Flight Stakes, average tempo here, and I was wrong. Zugotcha got the job done well and truly over the mile. I sort of had my doubts, but Fireburn went ordinary. It's out for a spell now. Wolverine didn't handle the conditions, so they're saying that, you know, it had that flash of light run, didn't it? Yeah, overrated, I think. North Star last sort of bounced back and went a little bit better. Here, and what else do we have to say? Madame Pomeroy probably didn't handle the conditions that well. Renaissance Women's run was okay.
It was all right from a
point of view.
Oaksy sort of perspective, I guess.
Pretty
just needs a rider change, and I think a little bit more ground, it'll be all right. You know, everything's straight. Like most of them, I don't know what Zugotcha can keep racing this prep. It can drop back in trip. I think that would be. I think 1400 probably looks. I don't even know. To be fair, you can't say it. A mile's no good. It's done everything here, hasn't it? And it's
the last 200. The last 200 of the race was about a length below standard. And, you know, Zugotcha looked strong there, and I think it was just a case of it got the
pretty
job
dominant,
done.
though, isn't it?
And yeah, it was dominant enough for sure. She's
going back to the
inside. She can go.
Yeah, the second horse who just tried its half. Hard at hasn't. I was third horse, is it? Who ran second? North Star last hold on. I can't even remember. So she's extreme. Tried a life out. Can't go an inch better. I don't think. I think Fireburn. I don't think it's a miler, and it's just hard to give that sort of ground away to all the time, over and over again, and keep running on.
Well, its best run was the slipper over the 1200, and then it sort of went backwards a little, about a length, over to 1400, and then sort of went backwards again over to mile for mine when She's Extreme beat it. So yeah, I think it's maybe just a 1200 metre horse.
It's been a funny horse to me, Zugotcha. Like I found it the first day at $26 when it sort of surprised everyone. Then I've half dropped off it, and I definitely dropped off it come that race. Sort of chipped around it with the early race, and just keeps getting better. I thought it was a horse that was Johnny on the spot, right place at the right time, first up, and it's proved me wrong. Just keeps getting better.
Yeah, no knock on it. But anyway, that's what it was. Is there anything else to add to that race, John?
No, I think that's it. I don't know where they go, but sort of the horses up front are the only ones. Sort of 1, 2, 3 across the line are the only three I'd probably be interested in. You said Fireburn's going out, and Renaissance Woman's an interesting horse from an Oaks, but it didn't do anything spectacular there to want to find it with great confidence. It just went okay and maintained sort of a one pace, like it's just going to keep coming over a longer trip.
Well, Madame Pomeroy, I think you can forgive it. You know, it was coughing and lost the plate, and probably didn't really appreciate it that heavy. Perhaps
it's got good races in it for sure. Don't know what they are or when, if it's this prep or not, but it's got a race or two in it for sure.
Okay, on to the Premier Stakes. This race often rates really well and has done again. Solid tempo here, John.
Can you or show the replay, and then come the end of the replay, you tell me what the hell Brutality's run was? It's very similar to the Anathol run, and then we'll try and work out the rest of the race from there. But the rest of it's pretty straightforward. But then, Brutality's going to get beat 8, and it gets beat, 2.5 or something, doesn't it? 3.5. Oh, my God.
3.5.
With no blinkers.
Good run. Good run. Well, I'm just thinking that Joe's got the horse back.
Yeah, and obviously likes these conditions. Maybe it doesn't want, I don't know how far they stretched it last prep, maybe a mile sort of as far as it wants. And maybe same as Private Eye.
A mile's its best distance, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess that makes sense. 1200 fresh, no blinkers on a soft track. But it just scares me what it does to the rest of the form. So bunched over the line with it being far and away the strongest late, I'm assuming. Yeah, it was.
In the race, for sure.
It just shows to me that, okay, Nature Strip, no-brainer. He's completely the horse to beat in the Everest. But the race for second, third, fourth, fifth, there's not much between quite a few of these horses.
Well, look, Marzu's sort of reached where you'd expect it to get to second up, and it's on track. And look, a lot of these are on track. I mean, Mars Crusader, and Kamantari's gone almost as good as it can go. Lost and Running, slight new peak for it. Yeah, you're not potting these horses. I mean, they're all good horses on their day when they get conditions to suit, but don't know if Lost.
It has to be scary.
I don't know that
here,
Lost and Running.
He's half sitting up on it. He gives it one just for the sake of giving it one, and then it looks like Chautauqua. Like, look at it get home. Change his leg.
It really found the line late.
Look at it. It's dead set going like Chautauqua. I don't know. I think you treat it as a solid lead up. All we can say is time solid. Nothing special, but solid. The race is solid. It's a solid lead up to the Everest. They've all had good lead up runs. There's nothing, probably Overpass is the one that was a little bit disappointing, maybe.
Yes, you could probably argue that.
And the rest, like Mars Crusade.
Mind you, it did regress second up last prep as well.
Yeah.
Its first up run was its best.
And you can argue that
the last two
it had to run well first up to try and get into the Everest, whereas others didn't. So maybe it's gone a little bit like Eduardo, bit too hard first up, regress second up, probably can, not a pen job, it's still in the,
not a pen job, but
argument.
It's not a horse for me, for the Everest.
No, but it's not far away in an Everest still. It's not, it's got to improve significantly to win, but it's not far away. Well, they picked Brutality for the Everest. Brutality and Anathol should get in the Everest. That'd be great.
Well, poor old Shelby's is it finished?
What the heck? Like, just give it a break. Like, the lightning struck twice in a row for it. Just put it in a paddock for the rest of its life. Give it 47,000 carats a day and let it relax.
Okay, let's get on to the Epson. And fast tempo early and solid by the time they got to the 600 metres. And of course, I was a little bit surprised. Ellsberg's gone to a new peak here. Hinged the one I was on, couldn't get the job done, and Top Ranked has gone to a new peak, and I suppose not surprising, it's only had 4 runs here. Ice Park, disappointing. Crosstalk,
pulled up lame.
Significantly lame, yeah, well, 2 out of 5 anyway.
Here's another half
Kiku,
statement.
coughing.
It's a bit of a cop-out to me when I know they pull up lame, you're only reporting what's wrong with them, but, horses that are absolutely carved on speed, like President this, and then they sort of explain the poor ride for me by saying it's pulled up lame. It seems to be a bit of a pattern. Of course, a horse is going to be absolutely cactus when they're setting really quick tempos on testing tracks in big races. It's is what it is, and it got carved last start. I think we sort of predicted Rachel would struggle to hold this horse, and she did. It did dead set knocked up Top Rank, didn't it? Like it's the best horse in the race. Ellsberg's done a good job. He's raced closer to the fast speed and toughed it out, but there's no doubt to me that Top Rank knocked up 200 out. It was going to win and win comfortably, and to me, he's the only horse I can see progressing out of this race. Hinged will run well back to fillies grade or mare's grade or whatever it is, and Ice Bath was disgraceful.
Well, it's interesting that Ellsberg has peaked here to a new personal best, and it was off the back of a 7-day backup, which it's never actually done before. Normally, it would have its races sort of 2 to 3 weeks spaced, and here they've opted for something a bit different, and it's paid dividends, and good on them. Good on both.
Pretty average run last week too. Certainly had its chance in front, and Surf Dance. I think I know you've looked at the race probably 30, 40, 50 times since, and probably just got it on loop in the lounge room there at the time being. But from what I remember, it was a very controlled speed, and they didn't really rip home, and Ellsberg was a little bit disappointing. So it's a strange run for it to back up off 7 days later and do something like this for mine. So it's look at it, I don't know, it's a weird one. You would expect Hinge to be stronger than it late, and it just wasn't. And and the other fella's knocked up. But I don't know where this
Hinged has gone within about a point, a small margin of what it did second up when it had the blinkers first time, and so certainly not potting.
I think that's Hinged. That's as good as she goes. I think that's all she's got. That's as good as she goes. I think Top Rank's definitely got more up its sleeve, and I think that's as good as Ellsberg goes. So, yeah, I don't know where they go with Top Rank. It's a funny one, isn't it? Because we've sort of talked a lot about it too, that it's only had limited runs each prep. So, what's it got left and where does it go? I don't know.
Indeed. Okay, we might get onto the Metropolitan now. Below average tempo here.
Below is very friendly. Below is very below.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a 2,400 metre race, and no surprising that No Compromise ran the best sectional ratings of the day from the 800 home.
Geez, he tried to get it beat. Oh my God!
Stockman's gone as almost as good as it went when it sort of featured second behind Douay there in the Tancred at Newcastle. Realm of Flowers is sort of back towards its best form. Ladonda V, pretty much towards its best. Arapaho probably
should have won. I thought Stockman should have won, and not because it was the best horse. It was just because it lobs in this position here, right in the middle. It had the absolute perfect spot to slide up and take advantage of the slow speed, be up outside the leaders for no extra work about 400 metres earlier, and staying in 100% cost it. Not saying it cost it the race, but I am saying it cost it the race in my opinion. I'm not saying it's definitive, but I think he should have slid up outside of Cariff. Now, look at you could be right behind Cariff and getting up 3 wide here, and they're just going so slow in these races. That's the difference, he could have just popped out. Now he's got Realm of Flowers outside him. He's stuck. He's boxed in, so now he's a length and a half behind Realm of Flowers, and he's on the back foot trying to make ground when he could have been on the back of Cariff, and for no extra. And now he's sort of off the bit chasing.
I was on Durston here, and that one raced okay. It's gone backwards a bit. Looked like it was going to go.
Not the same horse, right? On that going.
No.
The shape of the race and the way that horse has sprinted off slow tempos and the way it's travelled into the race here, you're counting your money, aren't you? Like if it's a dry track, I think it probably puts them away. The winner's just a better sprinter on this sort of ground.
Yes.
Nothing race going forward though, is it? Like there's some horses going well, but trying to work out who's the best and worst runs in this race and where they're going to go from here, crikey. And it doesn't look like really Melbourne Cup form or anything like that either.
I think Arapaho needs to get tipped out now.
Done its job for the prep, no doubt.
Yeah, Hammer On didn't run the 1.5 miles on the wet track.
Back to Wednesday.
Grove Ferry just sort of over-raced, isn't it? Sort of spoiled its chances there.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. You watch that. That's another one I had a good look at. So I think they went too slow, obviously, and I think it was to Grove Ferry's detriment more than Sacramento. And you see Sacramento sort of gets dropped off here, and it's going backwards, and that's it in the red back towards the inside, and it comes back and gets beat a length. So it's probably ready to do something next time, I would say, Sacramento. I think it's back on track.
It's hard to catch, though. I mean, look, since its form a few preparations ago, it's very hit and miss. It puts in a good run, then puts in a bad run. So yeah, maybe it can.
It's one of those dirty gay horses that you could see sneaking down to some cup in Melbourne out wide with someone sending it straight to the front and winning. So, and I'd say that probably could be the plan. I don't know. But, lucky last.
1,200 metre handicap. We have a below average tempo and interesting race here. Remark sort of obviously come back better as a gelding and maintain that form. Rustic still just wasn't in the right race. It needs longer. President, fuck me. I back this horse, and I'm not sort of talking through the kick here, but they've trialled this horse. It's gone like a lunatic when it's won by about 14 in the trial, and it went too fast. First up over 1,400, which probably in hindsight was a mistake. And then, they've trialled it again and obviously not showing intent. And, 1,400 There it is, pulling its head off.
They've tried to throw the muffs on here as a stopgap or something. And then it's another one that's pulled up the old, you get the feeling it should never have lined up here, and it's pulled up 1 out of 5 lame again. Yeah. I don't think it's even worth talking about. That's just been absolutely destroyed. It's just so very weird. Yeah. It's like, I feel sorry for the owners.
Steely's sort of was in an impossible position given the tempo, but it's hard to catch.
I was super keen on it. I thought it went huge.
Steely?
Yeah, just given no chance where it was. Was it like the tempo was just totally against it? I thought it ran really well considering it was first up. But the problem with it is it does race really well fresh, so just be careful. I'd make it a horse to follow apart from that. It's just a horse that does fly in these conditions. So I think it's just a bit of a missed opportunity for it. I think Remark's absolutely airborne, like proper flying. And he's just a different horse, isn't he? The geldings have actually worked.
Yeah, as it so often does.
Yeah, and he's a horse that can definitely. He can go to Melbourne and win. I've got no doubt about it. And I just love the way that he's found the line under pressure, both runs back. There's no doubt that he's had a perfect run here, but he's like run away from them late, hasn't he? And he doesn't do it quick. It doesn't look lucky. He just looks strong. He's flying.
Okay, well that's the review of the meeting. In terms of horses to follow, mine are race 2, Platinum Jubilee, the winner. Numerian out of the Hill Stakes, and Brutality during this preparation, not necessarily next start. That's it for me. What about you, John?
I'm going to find 3 horses nearly out of the one race. It always scares me, especially a bloody average race. But I think Wonderful Riri is very interesting, and Casino Kid's absolutely flying. Just needs a solid tempo. That's the only thing it needs, and preferably Randwick to Rosehill. And I think Paternals. I've never liked the horse, but I think it's ready to do something. They all come out of the same race. I hate doing that. Nothing. Brutality to win the Everest. If it gets a start, of course it'll get a start. You'll put it in there, won't you?
You're kidding, are you?
You're putting it in your slot, aren't you? I am kidding, but it just scares me that the 2 lead-up races, Anathol's dead set done that same thing.
It needs longer.
It does. And he's just too good. Wait for the blinkers and wet track 14 and 1600 will run well. I think that's it. They're all coming out of the same race for me. And that one in the last, I think Steely can run. I think Remark's the horse to follow. Steely's interesting. And so is Kinlock.
Okay, so we're going to get on to questions now. I've only got a few this week. No real questions of the week, though. We'll jackpot until next week, and we'll cover these ones in a moment. But, of course, before that, the show, of course, is sponsored by Top Sport Punters. And if you don't have an account, make sure you get yourself sorted. Contact Tristan and the team. They will look after you. They do bet the MBLs when they go up with their markets. Of course, there has been some changes, well publicised, regarding what they're doing in terms of abolishing, best of the best and trying to cut turnover and not bet as big a limits as they were on those group races. But that's just a business decision that they've made, and of course, it's totally understandable given the situation that they face. It's obviously going to be different for every operator. Small operators are perhaps not faced with as much of a tough environment to work in. But anyway, that's that. First question this week is from Alessandro, and he's asking, I don't know if you look at Australian racing much, but wanted to get your thoughts on the training techniques of Garrett Lynch and the way he constantly backs his horses up either 7 days or 3-day breaks, whether it's actually a profitable punting strategy and whether it's getting an added performance on his horses. For example, a $30 City winner a few weeks ago and a few others, it seems that there isn't many trainers who do train like him. Look, I don't follow South Australian racing as a rule. Obviously, I do from the point of rating them and in terms of some horses that I lay, but he's not one. I have noticed that a bit about his horses, but I've never really looked into too much of it. I'm just doing that now.
I swear to God, I've never heard of his name before, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't follow South Australian at all, but South Australian racing at all.
Just looking at his days to last start. Look, he in terms of horses on the quick backup, he does have a very good record at doing that, and it is profitable. So certainly that's an angle, Alessandra, that you could look at. It's not the only trick in his bag, though. There's a few others. In terms of his overall performance as a trainer, he's very profitable. If you look at his last 2 years, he's winning something like 19.5% on turnover from 508 runners, but admittedly the stable hasn't been going that well at all the last 100 rides or so. Last 3 months, same thing. So you definitely got something there in terms of an angle to follow. So you're well done.
He sounds like an old school trainer, doesn't he? Like he sounds like he's still, one of the fellas who does like to set a horse up for a particular target. So it's I don't, as I said, I don't know anything about him. I didn't even see the question, so I haven't looked. But I do love finding trainers like that.
Look, he outperforms. That's all I'm saying, and a bit of vintage years in him.
Yeah, and as a rule, like I know there was another one just from that silly thing the other stream that Donnie back one that was on a 3-day backup that won at the Gold Coast. It's definitely not a silly thing. It's not something you can put a line through. Usually, if their horse is being backed up, it's intent, isn't it? Like they know that the horse is well and whatever. They're not going to run the horse for the sake of running it on a 3-day backup.
It's not as profitable as it once was, but there's still opportunities in that space. For sure, and as you say, it is a sign of intent. Let's get on to the next question from Lucas. With the 2-year-old season starting on Saturday, how do you and Paul handle these races? Weighing races versus unraced, add anything you guys think the market under or overplays in these 2-year-old events compared to other markets? Look, I'll start by saying, Lucas, they're not races I target. There are other people that do it much better than I do. In that space, and good on them. I tend to want to see exposed form before.
That makes sense, right? Yeah, you want something to work with. You don't want bloody it's like your greatest nightmare, and it has to be, doesn't it? Like, but it's everyone's. Some people love it. I think it's a lot harder than it used to be, but it's a weird thing to say that. I think the 2-year-olds are weaker. So therefore, you're not, you used to get horses that were sort of developing a lot quicker. And I'm not even going to say, I think they did used to use other methods that are now outlawed to bring the horses along a bit quicker. So it all makes sense, but that makes it harder with early 2-year-old racing. So even myself, who does love this, because we do sort of work on the opposite ends of the spectrum, which is why we're probably both here, is it is a lot more difficult. So massive caution, isn't there? Like it's just for everybody, I think. There's no real answer.
Yeah, look, I'm a ratings-centric punter, and so for me, I need race performances to be able to measure.
And the data you get from trials and things that others may not get can help you.
Yeah, sure.
And I use that to help me. But
I just don't put time into them. So
there's too much. There's too many bloody unknowns for everybody. Yeah.
But for those that do, good on them.
And his question of under and over market plays, I think there's just so many unknowns that it's very difficult to price them no matter what.
I think the market does a pretty good job of that.
Come race time.
Yeah, the starting price. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, David's asked here. Well, first of all, John, he's congratulating you for a best on ground semi-final Saturday. A question for today's show. I know it was a competition, but on Saturday we saw the guys chasing a return. in normal circumstances, if you were on a losing run, do you adjust your betting to recoup losses to achieve your year's objective profit? And if so, how? Or do you accept that this year won't be as good as hoped? Thanks, Dave.
I'll just talk about the competition. So obviously you had 20,000 to start the day. You had to turn the 20,000 over in its entirety, which is number one, the most unrealistic thing that anyone would ever do. Turn their entire bank over on a Saturday, realistically. Number one.
I'll just throw something at that.
Yep.
That was a requirement, right? That was
100%.
That was the only rule.
No, well, you had a minimum of 5 races.
Yep.
And 20,000 minimum, and a max bet of 10,000 on any one runner.
Okay, so you had those 3 rules to contend with, and you're right. You wouldn't turn over your bank in terms of on a very busy day. I might outlay, in extreme circumstances, 12% of my bank.
There you go. So
in extreme circumstances,
and you don't. I'm not going to say don't take it the wrong way. You have as many bets as most would, because you use your data to cover a lot of areas, like more than a person who targets one area. So you're a pretty good example of someone who would be it's not conservative, is what I'm saying.
I'm talking about I'm not talking about on maybe a small spec bet, but in terms of any sort of reasonable sized bet, if I accumulate all of those on a day and look at that as a representation of turnover of my bank, it might be 12% on a busy day.
So it's extreme to turn over the 20, so therefore you have to adjust completely. The chasing a return's obviously part of the competition, and that's why I was really forward in saying to people that this is going to be highly volatile. It's not like the normal streams where you're sort of just having a look at what we do and trying to win on that particular day. Obviously, even those days are artificial because you're trying to push a bit more than you would unless things fall well, which is not normal. So it was always going to be highly volatile. The way I sort of handled the day myself was trying to turn the money over early on things that I probably wouldn't have bet on if I had the choice myself. Made a mistake in the Montefilia race. Well, not a mistake. I lost a fair chunk there, which meant I had to change my tactics, and then I had to sort of hone in on what I thought was my best race of the day, make sure I had enough there to play it. So it wasn't as if I was chasing I was chasing a return, but I was trying to give myself the best opportunity to give everyone a return, and I thought that was in one particular race, and then how it fell from there sort of it was not the priority. So it was just a really weird competition. I wouldn't be using that as any sort of basis for how a long-term professional punter should stake or plan or whatever. And I would never say that's how, like, any sort of thought of how you're running on any particular day or month or week would affect how you bet on the next race. And that would be
that's the nature of those streams, right? I mean, you're there, you've got X dollars, and you're trying to turn it over, and you're trying to maximise your position on the day. There's no carrying the bank into the next round. It's do or die.
That would have been a good idea.
Well, yeah, there's no. What I'm trying to say is there's no long-term approach there. It's a short-term approach, and a lot of the decisions that you make, professional punters wouldn't normally make.
It's not yet. They might make it in this situation because if it was you versus me, and so I'm playing you, I'm trying to win. It's nothing about not losing. You're definitely far, far more aggressive than you would ever be, because you have to be to turn the money over in a short period. So all these things are artificial, and and I don't even know what I am. I think I'm a form analyst. I do my best at trying to make the right decisions betting wise, but I think I've got a long way to go in that regard. So, but I think I'm good tactically. So I think I actually played it quite well. It got a bit nasty late in the day where things got grey and people sort of, it got a bit out of control. But that was, I think, why
in what way though?
Well, as in, like you're running out of races. What do you do? How do you handle these races? You're sort of playing one against the other, and trying to make sure that you're giving yourself the best chance to win whilst not losing or putting people's money at risk. It was very dicey. But the way I approached the day was, I'm not going to say a problem with the stream. The issue, the number one is that you're trying to win for the punter, right? Because it's not your money. So to me, the prize that we're trying to win was secondary. Winning on the day, number one, the biggest priority. And then entertainment, number two, because they're paying for the right to, they're putting their money up to back me or Mark or whoever it was on the day, Donnie or Johnny Mack, and they're for that they're trying to get a run for their money. They understand it's volatile, but you're trying to provide, entertainment and the best outcome for them. And then the prize to me was completely secondary. So actually beating the person I was up against wasn't, and I was just, as I think we talked about during the day, I think everyone was the same. You just wanted to be beaten. You didn't want to lose. You didn't want both of us to lose and someone end up with 4,000 out of the 20 and win. So I think, it ended up well, but it's just not realistic at all. So the question, whilst has good intentions, is just, don't take anything you saw. You can take little bits and pieces, things we talk about, ways we're handling situations, talking about the races, absolutely. But the way the betting sort of runs, and trying to say, trying to put that up against how someone like yourself would bet strategically throughout a month, year, is completely, it's not insane. That's a bad way to put it, but it is. It's just, they're just so radically different. It's not even, it's literally a game. Take it for what it is and try and pick up some little snippets along the way that'll help you in other respects, not the betting.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, that's all there is this week, punters. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on Thursday with Rapid Fire, and of course we've got Randwick on Saturday with Caulfield as well. Guineas Day at Caulfield, and what's Sydney? Is it Roman Consul or something like that?
Yeah, it's the sort of quietish week, isn't it? It's the off week, but I still think there's a bit of action there. Silver Eagle, the time honoured.
Look, give me a break.
Time honoured Silver Eagle, the Gloaming, the Tap Craig. What the hell did that race used to be? There's a horse called the Tap Craig, the Roman Consul, the Nivison. So yeah, it's a quietish day in Sydney compared to Melbourne, but it'll still be good.
Indeed. And of course, we'll be back soon with the show with Peter Lawrence, where we're sort of pushing time a little bit today because of the Warwick Farm races and so forth. So we'll catch you then. Thanks, guys.
Make sure you give an extra 2 minutes to the private eye race. Thanks, guys. Hang on. I can't find the sign-off button. What are we doing? We can't go.
Hit it.
Hit it.